Hello, it's Mrs. Conway. So today I want to talk about word problems with trigonometry. So with trigonometry word problems, you're going to have some new vocabulary that I want to go over. So the first vocabulary word is angle of elevation. So angle of elevation is always from the ground looking up. So you're going to have something where you've got the ground, a building, a skyscraper, or whatever, and you've got a person or something or a boat, and it's looking up towards the top of that building. So that's going to be your angle of elevation, is going to be from the ground looking up towards the building. The other word that you're going to see is angle of depression. And hopefully it helps to remember that if you're feeling depressed, you're feeling down. So an angle of depression is looking down. Now, the tricky part about angle of depression is that you have to be up high, say in an air balloon, and looking down at the ground or something on the ground. But you've got your line of sight that would be if you're looking straight forward, which is parallel to the ground. So if I'm in a balloon and I'm looking down towards something, then my angle of depression is the amount that I am looking down. So it's from the sky heading down. So the way we use that is we actually, well, there's two ways you can use it. One, you can subtract that angle from 90 and find this other angle here. Or be aware that that's also going to be the same thing as the ground. So angle of depression and angle of elevation are actually going to be talking about the same angle. So just be careful of that. It's just weird. So the reason why angle of depression actually ends up telling us the angle down here is because these two lines are parallel and these two are alternate interior angles, which means they're congruent. So that's some vocabulary, angle of elevation, angle of depression. Let's look at a couple of word problems. So one type of word problem that you will see is the traditional leaning a ladder up against a house. So in this one, we've got Bentley leans a 22-foot ladder against a wall so that it forms an angle 74 degrees to the ground. So we're always going to assume that the wall is 90 degrees to the ground, then the ladder is forming a 74 degree angle. How high up the wall does the ladder reach? That means our X is over here. So we're going to approach this just the same way that you would approach a non-word problem. So you're going to start by identifying your hypotenuse, adjacent, and opposite. There's our angle of reference. We are using for this problem, sorry, I missed a number here. So I forgot that the hypotenuse is the 22 feet. So that means that we're using the hypotenuse and the opposite for this problem because the opposite's what we're trying to find. Hypotenuse is 22, which is sine. Sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we're going to do sine of 74 degrees equals x over 22. This, to me, it looks like a multiply to solve type of problem. I'm going to multiply both sides by 22. So, and when I put that in the calculator, I got 21.1478 degrees. No, not degrees, feet. And round to the nearest hundredth of a foot, so it's going to be 21.15, and that's our final answer. And don't forget, since this is a word problem, you have to include those feet. Okay, so now we have a hot air balloon with a 32 degree angle of depression. So that means that this angle is a 30 degree angle of depression to a landmark that is 1,250 feet away, measuring horizontally. So that means that this is 1,250. Horizontal, remember, horizontal is sideways. What is the balloon's vertical? Vertical is up and down above the ground. So X has already been marked on this diagram. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So you can pick which of these triangles to use. I'm going to use the one down on the ground because that's how my brain works, which means I need to move this 30 degrees down here using alternate interior angles. So my angle of reference is right there. That makes this the hypotenuse. This is my opposite. This is my adjacent. And I need to know the opposite, and I already know the adjacent. So that's going to be tangent. So tangent of 30 degrees equals x over 1,250. So to solve that, I'm going to multiply by 1,250 on both sides. And when I put that one in my calculator, I get that x equals 721.6 so 7. And then it's good in my mind to just kind of check and make sure that makes sense. And this is 30 degrees, which means this would be 60. So this side should be smaller than this side. So that looks right to me. So that is how we solve simple word problems using trigonometry. That's sort of the difference between angle of elevation. Well, this was angle of depression. Let's look at one with angle of elevation. So this is a more complicated situation, but it's using angle of elevation, and really, it's not as bad as it looks. So, it says a boat is heading towards a lighthouse whose beacon is 110 feet above the water. From point A, the crew measures the angle of elevation to 16 degrees. Before they drew closer, the measured angle of elevation the second time at point B later on, and it's 21 degrees. Find the distance from point A to point B. Round to the nearest foot if necessary. So this one's already been drawn in, but it's a good time to talk about the angle of elevation. Remember, that's going to be from the boat looking up at the lighthouse. So it's going to be these angles here. And with this type of problem, what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to find, or what I like to see it as, is we're trying to find this distance from A to B. So I'm looking at this big triangle here, and I want to find that distance. And then I'm looking at this smaller triangle here, and I want to find this distance right here, and then my question mark is going to equal x subtract y. So again, first thing to do, mark up our triangles. So for the small triangle, honestly, it's going to end up the same for the small and big. These are both the hypotenuse, which is not going to be used. The 110 is the opposite, and the x and the y are both the adjacent. So for both of these problems, we're going to be using opposite and adjacent. So we're going to be using tangent. So for this problem, tangent of 110 over y, and then I put that in my calculator. To solve this one, we're going to have to divide, right? Because the y is in the denominator, so y is going to equal 110 over, and then to solve the other equation, use the 16, and we're going to use x, but it's still the 110. So it'll be x equal, or tangent of 16 equals 110, but over x, which means x equals 110 over tangent, which is 386. So now we just need to subtract our two numbers, and that'll tell us the final answer. So I'm going to subtract 286, and I got 97 point, gosh, I can't read that number, 0556, which it said round to the nearest foot, so that's just going to be 97. 97 feet is our final answer for this problem. So that's a basic overview of how to do these word problems with trigonometry. Honestly, the only way to get really good at this kind of stuff is to try a bunch of problems, and if you get stuck, get help, or look at the examples on Delta Math. So I'm going to encourage you to log on to Delta Math and do some practice. Good luck.